Hey out there, productive members of society. My name is Mario, and this video was actually inspired by my brother because he called me. He's in the Air Force. He called me and said, hey, I want to get into IT and I don't know where to start. I don't know what each of these positions or the titles do and how much they get paid. You already know the dance. With that being said, this video is more like an overview of the different positions and titles that you can hold. I also try to dive into the top 3 certs that you should get into, which are A+, Net+, and Sec+. Yeah, without no further ado, let's get into it. If your company has its own IT department, which is very likely, they will have a help desk department because the help desk is the foundation of every IT department. IT works very much in tiers. So I would say tier 1 is pretty much help desk. And tier 1, you can do things like reset passwords, a new user is starting, adding them into Active Directory, create a new email group, add this user to this email group, things like that. You won't be doing too much advanced stuff, okay? But if you want to get further into it, levels up, level 2, you might get IT support specialist. Here are the other branches that are not usually like ranked, but they're more subgenres of IT that you can do. The other one is admin. You have your admins, security. The new kid on the block, we have cloud. We have ERPs, data, project management. I know people don't really think about project management for IT, but it's part of IT. And we have networking. I am forgetting something. It's escaping me, but if I do think about it, I will put it in. Let's start on the left end on admins, which is where I'm currently at. My current title is sysadmin, which is system admin. Basically, on a day-to-day basis, my job is to configure servers, I do some networking, but my focus is not networking. I configure switches, APs, and firewalls. I have firewalls at home, like a Fortinet firewall that I mess with. I have a firewaller that I also mess with. So I do understand the technology, but at work, there's too much at play for me to be responsible for the company firewall. Especially I'm not an expert in that area. A sysadmin will be responsible for anything that has to do with configuring servers, making new recommendations for new technology, patches, vulnerabilities, all of those things. Those are the sysadmin job. Now, this role, you would have the database admin. You could also put a database admin under data. Obviously, it has data in there. But a database admin would be more focused on administering. Like admin is administering, making sure that the database is up to date. The database is running optimally, like, at its best capacity. That you're using the correct technology for the type of data that you are storing. That's a database admin. So when you go on the admin side, you are more into configuring stuff. You want to find solutions to things. But I mean, IT is all about finding solutions, but you are more in depth, more involved. Security. When you go to security, they have different type of security. You have InfoSec, which is information security, where you are more looking at the information level of security, not really digging deep into like packets or pen testing, which is another part of security. So in InfoSec, you're mostly looking at information security. Are we storing any PII that shouldn't be stored? How is the data traveling? Email security, web filtering, more. So as an admin, you also do some of these things, but if your company has a department, that would not be your focus. You will be part of the solution, but you won't be fully involved in the solution, if that makes sense. A pen tester is a short word for penetration testing. So they basically try to penetrate into your network, try to hack into your firewall, your switches, trying to find vulnerabilities that you, as an admin, I probably won't know exist. So that's what a pen tester does. Security side, anything that has to do with making sure the environment is secure. And then we have the new kid on the block, which is cloud. The cloud is basically like storing your junk in somebody else's garage, okay? Let's say Jim has a garage, a very nice garage, and you have a car and you don't have enough space in your personal garage. You're like, hey, Jim, I'll give you an extra $500 a month. Let me store my car in your garage. That's the cloud. So in the cloud, you have the exact same things. Like the admins is very popular word. So you could have a a cloud administrator, right? You can have cloud engineer. You can also have cloud security. So each one of these things, even though they have like cloud and admin, as you will see when you get into IT, a lot of people have admin behind their names. That doesn't mean that they're doing the exact same things. Like the administrator just mean like they're involved in administration. I don't know how else to put that. Okay. So yeah, cloud engineers are more involved, obviously. I mean, anything that has to do with engineer, you are literally building things. You are coming up with solutions from the ground up. And a cloud engineer would build a solution and they would pass it on to the cloud admin. And the cloud admin would put it together. So it's more like architecture, you know, like a cloud engineer would be more like doing more like the architecture of the cloud platform that you are using, if that makes sense. In cloud security, you'll just be doing security for the cloud. And within the cloud as well, that's a different topic. You have different types of cloud. You have hybrid clouds and you have fully cloud. You have private clouds. So all these things, if you go into the cloud or cloud sector, you would know and understand more about that. You have ERP, which is enterprise resource planning. A lot of very big companies use ERPs because ERPs are systems, or it's a software really, that manages core business processes. It could have shipping on there. It could have a whole lot of things. It could have business analytics involved. It's a very big, very massive software that sometimes require multiple teams of people. I'm not really familiar with some of the titles there, but I'll give you some of the very popular products that exist out there. You have SAP, Dynamics 365, which is a Microsoft product. And I think there are so many other ones out there, but in general, these people, they are in IT. They are doing very highly technical things, especially for Dynamics 365, which I've dabbled in. You could be doing anything from dealing with accounting software, like wages expense, managing inventory, so forth and so on. Yeah, and you're just responsible for running those systems. And within data, you have admins as well. Just like I said here, you have database, which are called DB admins. And you can also have DB engineers, because why not? And then you have database analysts. These folks here under database analysts, they are basically taking a lot of mumbo jumbo data and making it make sense for the business. They use tools like Power BI. There are a lot of variety of tools, and within each one of these, you can grow it out. There are different types of data, like especially for example, a company like Amazon, right? They have a lot of data that they're gathering from us or from their sales, from everything else. So they need all these people. Like they need the engineers, they need the admins, they need the analysts to make it all make sense. Project managers. I know most people don't think of them as part of IT, but they are part of IT. A good project manager could make or break. For example, if the company you work for just bought a brand new office, you need project managers to keep this project on pace. They will gather all the information. Or if you are acquiring another company, a good project manager is very important because they will gather all the information and put it together and present it, and also speak the language that IT speak. Because if they come from a different background, they may not understand timelines to accomplish a certain thing. You would have your IT project manager. You would also have project coordinator. They're doing the exact same thing. Like honestly, like it's just project work. You know what I'm saying? But a good project manager is worth their weight in gold. So very, very don't sleep on being a project manager. And there are very good certifications out there to get started on that. Networking is dealing with anything that's sending packets from here to there. Anything that has data that's traveling or connecting any two things together, you are dealing with networking. Anything that has to do with sending information from one system to another system, they deal with switches, they deal with firewalls, they deal with routers, they deal with access points for Wi-Fi. They are involved in optimizing the network, making sure the packets don't get stuck, no bottlenecks, so forth and so on. That's networking. And within here, you could have a network admin. I know it's very repetitive, but these are some of the titles because an administrator is describing a very specific thing. And you could have a network engineer. Each one of these roles have a varying level of pay, right? Because it depends on what company you are working for, what your skills are, the technologies that you are working on, how big the company is, especially for networking. Let's say for networking, for example, like a company like Amazon, if you have sites, that you have different locations. You have some in New York, Miami, blah, 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 all over the country and even international. You need to connect all these things together seamlessly to send data back to the home base, right? That's very big. You need a lot of teams to manage that. So you might get paid a lot of money working for a big company like Amazon doing network. With that being said, when it comes to the pay scale, it varies based on certs, how long you've been in the industry, the type of technologies that you work on. Like if you're an admin, for example, a system admin with Linux experience will make more than an admin. These are like usually, like, I mean, you have to also be good at negotiating, would make more than a admin who's only doing, let's say, Microsoft administration, right? Because Linux is very in demand. Like, you could even put Linux as its own category if you wanted to, but that's not really like a role. But you could have the title of a Linux administrator, but that's not really a thing. It's not really a thing you'll see very, very in common. You would see it more like in the sysadmin portion because it's Linux. It's like, it's very powerful and it's a very common OS that a lot of companies use for their servers. So to put it together, the help desk is usually where most people start if you don't have a degree. If you have a degree in data, you're not really going to start at the help desk. You're just going to start being a database analyst or data analyst. If you went to school for project management, you're just going to start in project management or project coordinator. If you went to some university for networking, you just go ahead and start being a network admin or a network analyst. If you went to school for security, you just start being like a security analyst, so forth and so on. But if you don't have a degree, right, like if you don't go to a 4-year university or whatnot, the most likely place will be the help desk that you're starting. Varying roles, varying titles, do varying things. Cloud, you are mostly working on the cloud. Security, you're doing security things that secure the place. On a day-to-day basis, you might be inspecting packets, any red flags. You will be using a lot of third-party vendors because unless the company you're working for is making those products, you are using a lot of vendors to provide you the security products. Doing a lot of ransomware testing, doing a lot of failover testing, backups. That's also part of the admin job as well. Okay, I hope that covers pretty much very clearly what each role does. Now, let's talk about the 3 certs that I mentioned. Most people starting out straight from, let's say, they're transitioning from another job and trying to get into IT. The most recommended certs that you'll see everywhere is the A+. You'll also see the Sec Plus, you'll see the Net Plus. Another good certification that's usually not recommended as much is the ITIL certification, but I'll put it here because most jobs now, if you are looking at LinkedIn or Indeed, they will put it there. But in my personal opinion, the ITIL is mostly for, I'll say, manager level. Because it's not really technical, it's more like procedural. The A plus is an overview of things, I would say. The A plus is hardware, software, knowing what a hard drive is, knowing what type of hard drive you have. The security plus is focused very much so on security. Learning what an IPS is, IDS, antivirus, ransomware, malware. Learning other things about, like, at a very basic level, not really understanding how to stop it, because, these attackers are very sophisticated. Not really understanding how to stop it, but more so understanding what they are and where they present themselves. And networking, same concepts. You learn about VLANs. You learn about switches. You learn about routers. There's an antiquated technology called bridges. You probably learn about the bridge. But, you won't be an expert at configuring any of these devices, but you'll know what a VLAN is. You'll know what a subnet is. You learn about all these technologies, but that doesn't mean you will be able to configure a subnet for that. They will say, oh, you have a company that has 100 computers, configure the subnet, etc., to meet the requirement. What class of IP address will you be using? Will you be using a class A, a class B, a class C, etc.? That's like, but if you want to grow into one of those fields, which is important that you take the cert, you also have the Cloud Plus. If you know what area kind of you want to go into, when you take these certs, it will broaden your knowledge further to know like, oh man, security is really cool. I like it. I like those things. It just clicks. It makes sense. So you can go further into other security certs. Very big ones like ISCC Square or something like that. From the A plus side, you could go do some Microsoft certifications for managing servers or to manage endpoints. From the Net Plus, the most likely is Cisco CCNA. That's most likely what they'll recommend that you start with. But there are different ones. You could go to different technologies. You could go to Fortinet, which is a security company as well. Network security. There are different roles. There are different positions. The field is very big. And I forgot AI. You could go to the AI route. I don't know too much about the titles there, or the qualifications that you need to get into that field, but that's pretty big and evolving. With that being said, the field is very big. The opportunities are there. It just depends on what you want to do and how much time you have to invest, because all of these certs, although it sounds quick in this video, they will all require a lot of time, a lot of learning. And IT in general requires a lot of continuous learning because technology is evolving very fast. You always got to be on your tippy toe. There's new attacks, new threats, new patches. There's always something to learn, always something to do. You can get paid a lot of money doing any of these. It just depends on how skillful you are in them and how far your accreditation goes. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. I'll catch you later.